Hey guys, today I want to show you one of my recently finished project. This project was actually started quite a long time ago, but I finished all necessary features I wanted to have in it from the very beginning. So this is not about specifically Canon camera and lens. This is about this Bescor motorized pan head. So what's the deal, right? So what is Bescor motorized pan head? This is battery-powered motorized pan and tilt head, which can be used to actually pan and tilt any kind of camera or any other like scope or lens. But originally, this lens came with the long, big-ass, clunky remote control, long wired remote control. Yeah, can you imagine that? So, which was like a complete bummer for me because, first of all, the range is limit. I think it was 20 feet long, if I'm not mistaken, originally, which is okay, but not always you can leave your camera 20 feet away from you. Plus, if you're outside or outdoors, this is really crazy to actually have this wire going through bushes and grass. So why I wanted to have it? So my original idea was sometime you can actually place remotely the camera nearby some sort of a point of interest. For example, a bird nest, or some very take a photo or video of some kind of very spooky birds, which very hard to get close to. So this is very helpful. There are many other applications of this particular setup, but the wire was a killer. So what I decided to do, I decided to actually make it wireless. And I want to demonstrate you something here. So let's power this thing on. And we have, so here's my Android phone, and I have an application here I created. So what we can do here, we can, from this application, can completely control this thing. It's relatively slow, but it's good. So it can be used for panning, can be used for photography, for panoramic photography, can be used for maybe some astrophotography, I don't know. I haven't thought about that, but it was perfectly working for me photographing birds. So that was my main idea, photographing and taking videos of birds. For example, hummingbirds, right? They are, at least here in Canada, they're very like very spook, how to say, they don't like people that much. So, and I do have I call it trigger button here, which can actually trigger the shutter. So using remote shutter from Canon and any other camera. So those two leads you can see over here, they are essentially connected to digital pins of device inside, and they can be used as trigger external things when I press this trigger button. All right, so what's inside? I can give really brief explanations of what's inside. Inside is Arduino and Bluetooth dongle. So I put Arduino and Bluetooth dongle inside in order to actually be able to connect to it and control it remotely. So I will provide detailed explanation of how I did that, how I wired everything inside. Also, I'll tell you about Arduino actually software and actually phone software which able to connect to this particular Arduino device. Alright, so I've removed the camera in order to actually give you a general overview look of this pan and tilt head. So this is Bescor, just a reminder, this is Bescor MP-101, motorized pan and tilt head. So it's made in China, but I would say quality is pretty decent. I'm not sure how long it's gonna last under load, but so far, with my long telephoto lens and Canon 7D or 40D it works perfectly. So I'm pretty sure it can handle more weight, but this is, it's probably about 3 kilos or something of weight, and it works very well. Um, so what do we have here? We have a tripod um, screw which actually connects to your camera. This is retractable. So we have here external power supply, which I'm not using. Here's battery bay here. Contains 4 AA's. I'm using the rechargeables. So on the bottom it has another tripod socket. You can actually put it, screw it in instead of general, how to say, standard tripod, like as if you would connect it to the camera. And this goes in between a tripod and the camera. So on the back here, you have a bunch of controls. So forget that I said that the Arduino is inside and those wires are sticking out. Essentially, original controls, they're still operational, by the way. I didn't destroy or got anything of the originals. So what can it do? It can have automatic mode, which is A here, which will pan the head like left to right, and there is a different angles it can pan. So 45, 90, 340 degrees. It's gonna go back and forth, only panning. I think tilting is manual. So this socket, I forgot, I think it's called DIN socket over here or something to this extent. This socket is connected to the long wire I mentioned before, and then the wire have a little remote control with like 4 buttons. 4 buttons and a switch. Switch is to change the speed. So this thing can run into speed modes like fast and slow. I think I'm running by default in slow. The reason I left slow in because at the fast mode it's not as precise. So it's really easy to overshoot your target, especially with long telephoto lens. So I left it on a slow mode. So you have 340 degrees panning, and I do not remember tilting. What's the angle? But not big. So essentially, this is gonna go as far as that, and as far as this. So it's probably 45 degrees each way. So this would be the basic features of this Bescor pan and tilt head. So the problem I try to overcome is to remove wired controls to the Bescor head. Obviously, I'm gonna use high capacity AA's because there is the ability to use 6 volt 1 amp external power supply, which may be okay when you are not too far away from the power socket, but hey, it's very rarely the case for me, at least. So let's talk about what's inside. So as I mentioned before, I have a little teeny tiny Arduino inside and the Bluetooth dongle. I call it Bluetooth dongle, but essentially it's a serial Bluetooth controller which is connected to Arduino via just RxTX and standard serial controls, only for 4 wires, ground, VCC, and Rx and TX. So that's enough to actually send commands to Arduino and do appropriate, controls to pan and tilt and trigger this mechanism, trigger mechanism. I call it trigger. So next step, I will be talking about what's inside. I will try to disassemble this and look what's inside. Also, I'm going to share, as I mentioned, schematic and Arduino and Android software for you guys to, if you want to try to play with it, replicate, or maybe improve. Anyways, so that's going to be part number 2 of my video. All right, so let's try to take this thing apart, and I'll show how it looks inside. All right, we have 4 screws on the bottom. Let's screw them. we remove this plate, 4 screws. All right, we have 2 more screws over here at the top. Okay, and at this moment, all this construction is pulling away like this. It's really jam-packed of wires and stuff, so you have to be very careful not to rip anything. Okay, well, screws are no big deal. I'm gonna just leave that one. All right, so here we have it. Try to be careful as much as I can, because as you see, it's a mess of wires. So as you can see right now, we do have a Bluetooth module over here. It's a pretty small Bluetooth module, the smaller I can find. And this is Arduino clone. This is Arduino clone, and this is Arduino Pro Mini clone. The only thing it has is just serial. It doesn't have any USB or anything. So this is great because we need as smaller board as possible, because it's very limited space here, and as you see, it's so jam-packed with wires and everything else that it's very hard to actually put everything together like back how it was in original state. So it's going to be a little bit of a puzzle me. Like every time I open this thing, it's a puzzle to actually put everything back together. So what's the general idea here? So what I've done, okay, I already explained that Bluetooth dongle connected just to serial of Arduino, and this is very straightforward. There is nothing really to talk to here. This is, by the way, Arduino Bluetooth module is of brand Krios. This is the thinnest I could find. It has a pretty handy little I forgot the name of those. Somewhat J something connector. This is very nice, much better than this kind of headers. Takes way less space. Also wrapped it in cellophane or plastic, just to make sure it's not gonna short anything anywhere. So Arduino part, okay, this is serial side, serial business side over here. Rex, TX, and power. So on other side, I have power coming to Arduino and 4 pins which actually controls, and 2 more pins over here which actually are trigger controls. So these are just soldered directly because, you know, it was not enough space for another header or bigger header. I should have probably soldered everything and saved even more space, but well, I wasn't really sure if this is how long this Arduino board gonna last. So, you know, less soldering is better. But this is the maximum dimensions you can use because it's already very hard to put everything together. Also, I had to cut out, it was another plate over here which actually screw in over there. So there are, okay, I'll try to show you. There are 2 more, these are screw holes for those top screws. So there was another over there. So this plate and that screw I had to cut out completely. So because otherwise there is no way I can, and it was no way I can fit Arduino in here. So I completely cut it out. Like I took side cutters and just cut. So okay, it does not exist anymore. As you see, it's kind of a bit broken pieces over here. So what I've done is the electronic side. I try to tilt it. I'll see better. So essentially, I wired a digital pin of Arduino directly to those connectors. I figured out which one is up and down, left and right, and just wired them directly. So setting digital 1 on those pins will essentially emulate pressing a button. So this is as easy as it gets. Doesn't require any kind of, you know, fiddling with electronics. I just connected directly to the pin of these DIN connectors on another side, from inside, and setting digital 1 on each of those or on any of those will trigger essentially trigger the necessary motor and direction. And I just powered the Arduino from exactly the same power source this motor controller board powers on. This is pretty much it. So Arduino uses super basic software which actually receives the serial commands and converts them into appropriate digital signals set on a necessary pin. Doesn't report anything back. There is no, acknowledgement of anything, just one-way communication. Same time on the phone, I created very simple software which opens serial Bluetooth port with, like right now, this MAC address of this Bluetooth dongle is essentially hard-coded in the software, but it's easy to change. Open serial port, SPP, establish SPP communication, and just keep sending the signals when I press the button. Press the button, signal send. Release the buttons, signals stop, signal send. The same for trigger. Trigger on, trigger off. Down, stop. Right, stop. Up, stop. Left, stop. So as simple as it can be. This is actually Qt application. Super simple. It was very easy to make. The problem I actually took me some time because the original application was made for BlackBerry, and not sure if BlackBerry supports Qt anymore. So I had to port to Android. Actually, I had to redo it in Qt for Android and any other platform which support Qt. Can be even, I think it may work even on PC. PC or Linux or whatever, providing the Bluetooth support is the same for all of those platforms. This is actually the beauty of Qt. It can be cross-compiled to any other platform you want. All right, so yeah, application is super simple. So this is it. There is not much to it. So there are future ideas I have. It would be very nice to be able to actually figure out the angle of either tilt or pan motors. I think it is possible in this mesh of wires. I think there are some kind of like limit switches or something which actually tells when this motor to stop and start tilting opposite direction. I could try to hook up to one of those, but there's so many wires and I didn't do enough reverse engineering of this Bescor head to actually figure out which one is what. So I decided to leave it for the future, and maybe somebody has more information on it, please share, because that will be very helpful. Because this is a lot of wires, and I have to actually disassemble all this stuff in order to figure out what is what. So I also will provide in my on my website detailed description where exactly I solder the Arduino digital pins in order to actually control it. I just made a photo, and photo will explain everything. And where do I took power? Again, everything was pretty straightforward. So I think this is pretty much it. Yeah, in order to actually try to play with this by yourself, please go to my blog. There will be the links to the GitHub where you can download Arduino and the phone application or client application or controller application, let's say. And I know if guys, you have any ideas how to improve this, or have more information on this head, please share. So if you like my video, please like and subscribe.